Hey everybody, this is Dean and welcome to Photo Blue. Today I'm going to do a quick start video on how to use ON1. So it's just going to be kind of the basics of it. We'll go into more details of how to fine-tune things and different tools within ON1 in later videos. But in this video I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. So when you open up ON1, at first you have these three icons over here. One's Browse and one's Edit. The third one is More. We're going to ignore More for now because that just takes you into particular areas of the interface. For example, if we clicked on Develop, it would take us to Edit, but it would take us to the Develop tab. So primarily, you'll probably be using Edit and Browse. So Browse is where it kind of helps you find your pictures. So you want to keep your pictures in a hierarchy of folders together, usually, or however you want to organize them. And so I have most of my photographs are under Photos, and I have them listed by camera and then by year and date is how I organize my files. So right now, if we click on this other folder right here, it will take us to a different folder and show us the images. The first time you browse a folder, it indexes the folder and it sets up thumbnails and stuff for it. So it takes it a little while to process it. The next time you open it up, it should open right up most of the time. All right, so we're going to go back to this folder right here and we're going to select this image. Now if I double click on this image, it will bring it right into Edit, or I can go to this icon here on the left and click Edit. Now if you look over the right, you'll see there are these different tabs here with different features in it. The main one that you'll be dealing with for most simple edits is Develop. And so we're going to go into that in a second, but first we're going to go over to the crop function over here. But you'll see these tabs right here. This is where the More will take you. Like if we go up here to More, you'll see there's Effects and Portrait AI. And those are these tabs over here. And so that's just kind of a quick way to get right into the tab. I never use More, to tell you the truth. I like to go into Edit and then click the tab I want. And usually the first tab I want is Develop, and it's there by default anyway. So if we go over to Crop, there are a couple of different things that we can do. We can go in here and we can level it. A lot of times it's better to level the image first. You want to level the image first a lot of times, just because then you know how far you can crop in and out. Because if the image is way off kilter, you're gonna have to crop it down a little bit anyway so that it's square. So you can go by angle right here and actually adjust it, and it has this grid on it so that you can see. This is real helpful if you just want to eyeball it, or if you're not sure what line you want to follow. Let's go with that. See, because the lines on this church, it looks like they're converging a little bit right here. And if there's nothing level that you can follow, it's a little hard to do it with the level. The level function, if you select this, you actually draw a line, either horizontal or vertical, and it will align either the vertical or the horizontal to it. So if you have a straight line like across the top of this roof, you may level it to that. But in this case, I think this looks a little more level overall. A lot of times there's nothing straight in the picture because buildings aren't exactly straight, and even if they are exactly straight, you may have converging lines because of the angle or the lens that you're using. And so you just have to kind of eyeball it and get it to where you think it looks good, or acceptable at least. So now we want to crop this image. We can go up here by default. I think it goes on to freeform. And freeform will let you resize it to whatever size you want. Usually you want to keep it to a standard aspect ratio or the original ratio. I usually keep the image to the original ratio. You can crop it to any ratio you want, but generally you want to stick to either the original ratio or one of these standard ratios, because you don't want a lot of pictures that are not only different aspect ratios, but none of them are standard. On the other hand, you may be doing something where you want non-standard aspect ratios for a particular project. So it's just something to be aware of. So we're going to click this to original ratio. The other thing you can do is if the aspect ratio is set on freeform, if you hold shift, it will make it the original ratio. Now, I'm going to grab this bottom right corner and start to resize this. If I go and grab the middle of this picture, I can then recenter this building into the size of image I have, and then I can resize it some more and grab it and move it around to wherever I want it. So I probably want a little more sky than parking lot, I would guess. So this looks pretty good. If this is what you want, you can hit the check. If you decide I don't want to crop it after all, you hit the X. And this is to undo. The other thing is to undo. X will totally undo everything. So we're going to just hit the check mark. All right, so there we have our photograph. It's cropped. That's one of the main things people want to do when they edit photos is crop something, because a lot of times there are things left in the picture that we decide we don't want, or we don't have it cropped quite right in the camera, and so we can do the adjustment by cropping it. So the other main area we're going to look at here is develop, and develop has the exposure, the contrast, the highlights, the midtones, shadows. We'll ignore whites and blacks down here for now, but that has to do with the setting the highest white and the lowest black. And then we have structure, which is just structure kind of sharpens it. Haze kind of dehazes it. We have color temperature down here. And those are the only functions we're going to go over right now, really, because we just want a quick video so you can get started using this editing, and you can experiment with some of these other things. So the exposure will obviously brighten it or darken the whole picture. The contrast will increase or decrease the contrast of the picture. If we hit Control Z, it undoes what we've just done. And then you've got highlights, midtones, and shadows. And this actually kind of it adjusts exposure and contrast in a sense, because it adjusts the exposure but only of the highlights or the midtones or the shadows. And so that gives you a way to adjust just a particular level. A lot of times I find the midtones, once I usually get the highlights and the shadows to where I want them, and then I adjust the midtones usually. But the midtones are usually the thing that really makes the picture pop. And then I might adjust the contrast a little after that. So those are some of the main features right there. One of the other tabs here that we'll go into in the future is effects. And effects, which you may want to, after you've kind of messed around with the basic things, you may want to mess with some of these filters just to see what they do. And so here, if you click on this, it gives you all these different filters. For example, you can change the image to black and white. You can add film grain to it. You can adjust the color on it in different ways. But primarily, we're just sticking with the develop tab on this. Then the final thing, now this has made all these edits, but it's put it in what's called a sidecar file. So if you want to save this as a usable image, you're going to have to either save as or export. So we'll just go with the save as this time, because it will just save a basic picture. You can save it as a PSD, which is a Photoshop image, and you could edit it in Photoshop if you have Photoshop. Or you can re-edit it in this, but it will just replace the entire image. It loses some of the ability that Photoshop has. But if you wanted to go into Photoshop or take it into Photoshop somewhere, this is the file format you would do. Probably what you're going to do is either save it as a TIFF, which will save the most information on this, or save it as a JPEG, which would be the format you would use for most applications. So then you can save this image and use it however you want once you do that. Cancel out of here. The other thing that you can do is you can go to export, and export will give you this choice of how you want it, what format, what size you want it, and that depends on your use as well. We'll go into more detail in export in a different video. So that's kind of just the basic functionality of ON1, how to find your images in it, how to get to edit, how to do some basic edits, and how to crop it. I'm Dean, and this has been Photo Blue, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like.